button on. All right, here we go. All right, so the first thing is luckily we don't have to say your name or anything, even though I realize it says on the Zoom, so one of those things. But where do you currently coach?
So I am the varsity boys head coach, varsity boys basketball head coach at Caledonia Mumford, varsity boys track coach, and the varsity boys and girls assistant coach, all at Caledonia Mumford High School.
Perfect. And how many years have you been coaching now?
I've been coaching basketball, oh gosh, since 2014, I guess. So what's that? This will be 12 years.
Yep.
Track about 10, I think, and cross country maybe like 7.
Okay. What demographics do you coach?
So Calmum's pretty lacking in the diversity
Okay.
area. So predominantly white. I'm trying to think on the team now. I have one black student athlete. I think on both. No, actually, I think just on our varsity team right now. So, and some of my answers might be JV and varsity. We practice a lot together.
Yeah,
And I'm going to mostly speak from basketball just because that's the season that I'm currently in right now. So,
makes
but
sense.
yeah, right now we have one black athlete and 9 just on the varsity alone, nine white student athletes.
And have you predominantly coached boys?
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then just, one to two of maybe some highlights of your coaching career.
So yeah, I started as the JV coach from 2014, 15. That was my first year. And that was, I mean, the what, 8 years? I think I did that from 2014 to 2022, 23. So those, yeah, I think it's 8 years being a JV coach, but also like an assistant coach for the varsity. We had a lot of like we were, it was our run. Like we had a pretty solid run there for that whole time really. So my first year as the JV coach, our varsity team won sectionals. So
Wow.
being a part of that, and then we won it back to back in 19 and 20 as well. So it's like that was like the group that I started JV with. Now they were seniors. Um, so that was pretty cool, being able to experience that with them. There's a couple JV tournaments that we've done that we were able to fortunate enough to win. And then just like the connection that you make with the boys over the years. Like we have our alumni game on Friday night, and with most of them, it's like they never left, and they've been gone for 10 or 12 years, and it's like they never left. Like the group text that we have going right now, it's like their last practice was yesterday. So
That's
it'll
awesome.
be really fun. So to answer your question, I'd say winning sectionals being like probably the number one bright spot, but then number two or maybe one B, um, just like the connections that you make with the boys. And it's kind of cliche. Everybody says, this is a family, it's a brotherhood. Like those are like those cliche words, but like we're
Yeah.
we're living it. And like when I took over varsity, like that was one of the things like that I said in my interview was like, and being an alum myself, like I want our alumni ties to be strong. It's
Mhm.
not, the current team's program, like it's our program. And I'm talking from the guys that are currently in it to guys that were in it, 50 years ago.
Yeah,
So it's nice that we're, honoring that. So,
that's awesome. So today for this, I'm going to be asking you the following questions. They're mainly going to be focused on sportsmanship and gamesmanship, and the issues that come with that in sport. Um, Obviously, you can answer these related to whichever sports you coach. There's also going to be some questions about the diversity aspects of sport.
mhm.
In this class, we do not specifically address diversity, but it is obviously an extremely important issue in sport, which is why this is part of our final project.
Mhm.
So, any of your answers here, obviously, we'll just stay within this Zoom and then we'll just, be referenced in my final project. All
Okay.
right. So the first question is sportsmanship an important part of your coaching philosophy and why?
Yeah. So, and I kind of acknowledged like, what my interview process was like. And so that was definitely another thing that I kind of touched on is like, and even so we just started our first practice last Monday. And the meeting that we had before with the boys, one thing that I said was, it's my obligation, my assistant's obligation to obviously win games and make you better basketball players. But I feel like at the same time, our job is to make you better men from when you're not only in these hallways but after you leave. I think that sports play a really big role in who you become and who you are as a person. So sportsmanship, just having that overall respect for the game, respect for self, you're representing your community, your school. And then, like I said, like I have real ties with like the people that were in the program before the guys that I have now, obviously myself being one as well. I think that you have an obligation to, maintain and even uplift the standard that was set. So it's a big part to answer your question. Sportsmanship's a big part. We don't want to go out to, a road game and we find out, later that night that we're going viral for all the wrong reasons. You know, there's a sense of respect that we feel like needs to go into the game every single night. And our guys do a really good job of meeting that standard.
Absolutely. So, what one event regarding good sportsmanship sticks out the most from your experience coaching?
Um, I mean, I don't think that I've really had anything like, above and beyond. No, I take that back. I take that back. And I don't even think I wasn't even a coach then, but, and again, you're going to kind of hear me say this a lot, like the tradition that we have in our program and whatnot. So I'll go back to, God, I don't even remember how long ago this was, but, we were at a road game and the coach said, it's our last home game or whatever. And I'm going to let my manager with special needs in for the last whatever minute or whatever of this quarter, whatever it was, whatever the case.
Mm-hmm.
He told our coach that he was going to have his manager play. So the manager he takes a shot and he misses, and our big guy gets a defensive rebound and hands him the ball back and lets that kid go up and shoot the ball again. And the gym just erupted. Like it was awesome. Awesome
Wow.
moment. So I mean, since then, like I said, like nothing big like that. Like I think that was probably one of the biggest moments that comes to mind. But like, a guy from the other team gets knocked down or whatever. Unless it's like a transition play, my guys are off to the races. But especially the way that small school, high school sports are, these guys know each other out of school anyway. So, a guy
Yeah.
from the rival school gets knocked down, like they're right there picking him up and kind of laughing at him, like, yeah, you just got knocked on your butt or whatever, and um, so yeah, like I said, though, nothing really big like that. But again, there's just that mutual respect that I feel like small schools especially definitely have. It could be a big rivalry game. It could be, just another game on your schedule. But I just think, especially with small schools like that connection is a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you had issues with players where they have been reprimanded regarding unsportsmanlike conduct, either during a practice or a competition?
No, we haven't really had that. I know like other sports in our school have. I don't know if you've seen, we actually did just go viral for something like that.
Oh boy,
Um, in another sport. Okay, so if you haven't seen it, then good. I guess it didn't go out, but that's
hasn't
good.
made it
But
this
yeah,
way.
no, perfect. Okay, so and I'm laughing too because one of the boys is on the basketball team, and is a very good kid. I think he just had a moment of weakness there, honestly.
Lapse in
Um,
judgment.
yes, yeah, absolutely. But as far as like since I've been on the sidelines, like never. And I think
Mm.
too, like, and not saying other programs don't do this, but I just think again, like our expectations are so clear and so set,
Mhm.
um, that our boys, they handle themselves very well on the court. And it's to the point too where officials say, your kids play hard, and they really respect you guys and listen to you, and it's nice to see that. I love when that happens. Coach, your kids would run through a wall for you. They play hard. Like, you should be proud of them. Like, that's what more can you ask for?
Absolutely. Have you dealt with unsportsmanlike issues? Is that kind of similar question? Have you dealt with unsportsmanlike issues on your teams, um, with consequences or penalties? Seems like kind of the same question.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. No, not really. Like I said, our boys, they approach the game the right way. They handle themselves the right way. And again, I think that just comes from like from day one. Like, we just set like really clear and concise expectations for our team. And I mean, this starts, like I said, like our JV and varsity practice together. So I mean, you're hearing this from ninth grade all the way through 12th. So it's, you know what I mean? And like, yeah, every now and then we have a kid, maybe he just moved in, or maybe, yeah, I want to just try a new sport my senior year or whatever like that. But for the most part, like, everybody kind of falls in line with that. Like, okay, here are the expectations, for when I'm on the court, even if I'm on the bench, like, you're not chirping at the crowd, when this happens, or, whatever the case might be. Like, you're going to have those intense moments, but like, at the end of the day, like, we're still representing our school, our community, the name on the front of our jersey, even the name on the back of our jersey. Like, at the end of the day, you got to go home, and, it's your last name that could or could not be in the social media post that week. So,
yeah,
like I said, our kids do a really good job of respecting the game in that way.
good. Have you are you aware of the term gamesmanship and kind of what that looks like? Because obviously there's sportsmanship and then gamesmanship. For instance, in our class, we use the example of, I'm sure we've all seen the type of play where on the football field, center snaps the ball to the quarterback and they're like, oh, this isn't the right, ball or whatever. They're walking to the sideline and
Mhm.
then, they run it in for a touchdown, something like that, where it's, within the legal, realm, but
Sure.
obviously some debatable, gamesmanship going on there. And have you
Yeah.
had any issues with that?
Yeah. No issues with that for sure. Like, yeah, I definitely think that there's a difference between, like, a trick play and then just versus, deflate gate or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think there's definitely differences as far as that goes. But like, no, I mean, and I'll always speak very highly of the league that we play in, like the Livingston County League. We say at our meetings, like, this is like a pretty tight knit fraternity.
Mm.
Guys coming in and out, from the head coach's spot. Like, we're a pretty tight knit group, and we all, except for during our regular season, like, once it's sectionals, and unless we're playing, we just happen to match up against each other. Like, we're all rooting for each other anyway. Um, so as far as like anything like that, like, nothing, no, nothing ever too crazy that I've seen. I mean, like, we have a couple in our playbook, where, I mean, like, you really have to know the rule to be able to successfully defend that, I guess. So like a press play, for example, like knowing that, like, I can have a player step out of bounds and then he can pass it to somebody, after he passes it on the baseline, like, come right back in and then catch it and then look to get fouled. Um,
Mm.
that's a rule thing, that we, I don't want to say take advantage of, exploit, but also I think recently, like, the NFHS is like, we might adjust that rule a little bit. Like, we're seeing teams kind of bend but not break the rule. It's the way that it's written, and how it's, like I said, like, how it's written, and you're technically the first one to touch it, da da da.
Yeah.
But then it's also one of those things too, where, like, in the age that we're in now, like, once a team runs something, I could turn on ESPN and I see North Carolina runs that, like, oh, I'm putting it in. Well, everybody's now seen that on Twitter,
Yeah.
or Instagram or whatever. So now every coach does it anyway. So, um, you know, that's usually the extent of which of what we get. Everybody just seeing something from the college or the pro level and putting that in, but nothing too malicious though.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You already answered the next question about, if you guys have any sort of, even like small gamesmanship things, which, again, I think that falls in the category of, keeping it pretty, within the realm of, fair, but like, trying to,
Yeah, yeah,
gain that, little advantage, but like that's just of like knowing the rules and not,
right. Yeah, yeah,
doing it
yeah.
in an unethical way.
Yeah,
Um,
nothing where like, a kid faking an injury and then,
mhm.
we throw it over the defense's head. Yeah, no, nothing
Yeah,
like that. Like
nothing like that.
that's kind of, I don't know. I don't know the word I want to use.
A little bit,
But
maybe a
I think
little
you could kind
unethical.
of, yeah, yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, that leads right into the next question is, do you consider gamesmanship, say like with the, the football example we talked about, do you think that something like that is taking advantage of the rules or cheating, even if it may be by the letter of the law legal? How kind of is your feelings on that level of gamesmanship?
Yeah, like I said, like I feel like unless it's something where like, a kid's faking an injury or like we're only coming out with three guys on the floor and then all of a sudden here come these two and they're wide open, like, something like that. I know too, like officials, for basketball, for example, officials will like they purposely are like taught to, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in white,
Hmm.
here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in green. Okay, green ball, here we go. You know what I mean? So something like
Gotcha.
that. Like they are taught to manage the game in that regard. Um but I think at the same time, like I said, like with our press break where, we can just throw it down the line and then have another guy come in. Um Again, like and this is something that we've done for 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, and I
Yeah.
think that we're one of the only, just off the top of my head, and maybe it's just because, we haven't been in this situation all too much and everybody has something different. But like, even seeing that like done against us, I don't think that I've ever had that happen. I know that we've done it a handful of times.
Hmm.
Um, but like I said, like in the way that basketball is too, and with the way society is as far as like social media and stuff, like those we'll say trick plays and stuff have usually gone viral at this point. So you almost suspect something coming,
Yeah.
like you're just telling your guys, like, watch this kid, watch that. But again, like and you hit it, like if it's something, where it a kid's faking an injury or whatever, something like that. Like I think that's different. But just being creative with the rules, like, yeah, this person, as long as he's the first one to touch it, then that's fine. Then yeah, I mean, I think I'm for it. I mean, it's creative, and
Yeah.
everybody's looking for that, and I think that's what makes the game fun. Just seeing how creative everything can be, and um, but again, I think to answer your question, there's a line for sure. There's definitely a
Hmm.
line, but um, I think in my experience, though, like I've never really had anybody cross that line.
Good. In your coaching experience, have you had to deal with any diversity issues with team members, such as players not accepting teammates due to gender identification, socioeconomic status, religion, or racial background?
Right. So basketball wise, I mean, obviously, like I'm a black coach, and I teach and coach at a predominantly white public school in Livingston County too. So like the dynamics there are a little a little different, but um, I mean, it's been great. Like just from my lens, like it's been great, and like I've even had a couple of my cousins who have played for me, so we've never ever had like problems like that. I just think too, like again, small schools in both lenses can be a little bit different. You
Hmm.
can get a little bit of pushback from that, but at the same time, like when you're at a small school too, chances are you've gone to school with the kids that you're playing with since kindergarten. You've known each other forever, and it's just another year that we're playing and another year. So, I've been fortunate enough where every team that I've coached, 90% of my boys are best friends. So any of my black players, they've known their white teammates forever. And um again, like it's so cliche, like that family brotherhood thing, but like they really do come together and they're all there for the same reason. They just want to have fun and play basketball and get the most out of their high school experience. But then, like I said, for me, like from the other end, like player to coach, and me, obviously not looking like the majority of the kids who have played for me. Like I've never had anything like that, like at all. I mean, I think, and again, like I think that I know that I said earlier, like I've always felt obligated to prepare them not only for life on the court but off the court. Like I know in the past, like I've told them like what it's like. So I at one point in my JV career, like I was working in special ed, so like telling them like this is what my job is like every day, and like yeah, there aren't kids who necessarily are like you, and for some of them, like it was kind of eye opening to see like wow, like this is a kid like in our district. Like I know who this kid is, but like this is what it's like in this kid's life, which is kind of cool for them to see. Like oh wow, like that's something I never knew, and like that's different. Like and they kind of embrace that kind of stuff. Um, Track wise, like I know, like in the past, I had a kid who ran. Actually, he's still in school now that I think of it. I think this was his freshman year. Um, so he's openly gay, and of course, small school, high school boys, taking exception to that, and making jokes and whatnot, and just being like, guys, like it's really not that big of a deal. Like, what? Why? Like, why is this? Why is this a thing? And kind of just sitting there explaining like this is pretty stupid. Like think about what you're saying. Like this is the guy who's here for the same reason as you. Like and then flash forward 3 years, they're all like best friends now.
Mm.
Like it's just funny how you know sports works like that.
Yeah.
It's that same circumstance. Like this is the guy who like like I needed a fourth guy for a relay team and they didn't want to run with this kid, and I don't think it was just simply because of that. And now going into this season, realizing, okay, we just lost one of our better runners. Oh, hey, how about this
Mm.
kid? So it's just kind
Yeah.
of funny going like, man, this freshman, like you couldn't stand him. And now all of a sudden you guys are like, hey, like him.
Let's bring this guy in. Yeah.
Yeah, how about him? Yeah. So it's just kind of funny how sports work like that. And I think maturity is also a big role as well, and just learning and understanding and accepting others' differences. But it comes with growing up, and I think that's again, like I said, that's kind of an obligation in my eyes that coaches have is like again, sometimes your kids aren't taught this at home, or sometimes they're not learning that sitting in social studies. You know what I mean? Like it's sometimes it's got to be our obligations to do that. And I even try and do that in my own classroom. Like I teach middle school math and social studies, and yeah, anytime that I can just tell them, like, guys, like, here's what the world is really like outside of your middle school 12-year-old bubble. Like, do you think that's fair? Do you not? And it's pretty cool discussions to have too, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, as my final question, and I think you already kind of answered is, do you address diversity, acceptance in your preseason, and do you feel it is a necessary element of your coaching responsibilities?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, yeah, it's definitely something that I feel like every coach should definitely be hitting as well. Like I said, I think sports is the ultimate unifier, and it's just another obligation that we as coaches have.
Yeah. Well, that is all the questions I have for you. So I appreciate you taking the time to go and meet with me, go through all these questions, answer them, and appreciate all you do for coaching your students.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Like I said, I hope I wasn't too long winded, but
Oh, you're all
I hope you
good.
got a lot out of that. And no, like I said, I
Yes.
appreciate you for thinking of me, and glad to help you.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me stop my recording here.